This man had always been bullied. One day, he ran into his old middle school classmate on the street. Even after 18 years, Sam was still the same bully. He mocked Lester and even brought along his 2 sons. Facing 3 big guys, Lester could only endure it quietly. Seeing that Lester didn't fight back, Sam started insulting his wife too. It turned out Lester had married the beauty queen from their school days, something Sam still resented. Not wanting to argue, Lester turned to leave, but Sam wouldn't stop. He even bragged to his sons about how he used to beat up Lester when they were kids. Later, Lester went to the hospital but had to wait his turn. A nurse ignored him, so he grabbed a soda. With his injured face, even drinking was difficult. Then, the man sitting next to him said, "Mind if I have a sip?" Lester reluctantly handed it over, and the man downed the whole thing. The man asked how Lester got hurt. Lester admitted he'd been bullied by Sam. The stranger looked surprised, bullied, and did nothing. "If it were me," he said, "that guy would be pushing up daisies." He added that someone like Lester didn't deserve to live. Those words stabbed right through Lester's pride. "If that's how you feel, then do it for me," Lester joked, but the man took it seriously. Little did Lester know, that man was a hitman. His name was Lorne Malvo. The night before, Malvo had hit a deer with his car, injuring himself. The man tied up in his trunk escaped, but Malvo didn't chase him. The next morning, police found the abandoned car. Following the footprints, they discovered the escaped man frozen to death. They assumed he was the car's owner. Malvo then showed up at the factory where Sam worked and saw him with his sons. He sneered, "Your boys look kinda slow. Ever had their IQ tested?" Sam nearly lost it, but both sides held back. Malvo said he was just taking a look, leaving Sam puzzled. That night, Malvo followed Sam to a bar. Sam was meeting a call girl, but things went wrong. Sheriff Vern arrived at the scene and recognized Sam. With no clear motive, Vern had no leads. He could only suspect gang violence or personal revenge. The next day, Lester went to the insurance company where he worked. His boss mentioned Sam had been murdered the previous night, and he was a client there. That made Lester think of the man from the hospital, so he went to find Malvo. Lester wasn't sure if Malvo had killed Sam, but Malvo didn't deny it. In fact, he claimed Lester had asked him to. Thinking of Sam's 2 sons, Lester felt guilty, but Malvo told him, "Be a man, otherwise, you'll spend your life being stepped on." That night, Lester tried fixing the washing machine for his wife, but failed. She kept scolding him, pushing him over the edge. For years, he'd lived under her thumb, but this time, she went too far.
Oh, you gonna hit me? That's a lot.
No one expected the meek husband to actually kill her. Realizing what he'd done, Lester panicked. It was his first time killing anyone. He didn't know what to do, so he called Malvo for help. Then Lester grabbed his hunting rifle, planning to kill Malvo too, framing him for his wife's death. But before he could act,
Evening, Lester.
the man at the door wasn't Malvo, it was Sheriff Vern. He'd been investigating the abandoned car from the day before. The victim had no injuries, so Vern suspected he wasn't the car's owner. Reviewing hospital footage, he noticed Lester's head injury, making him a suspect. Further investigation revealed Lester had mentioned Sam to a man at the hospital. 2 murders now pointed straight at him. There was no escaping suspicion. Still, Vern, who'd known Lester for years, believed he was harmless and wanted to know more about that man. But just then, Vern noticed blood on the floor. His instincts kicked in. He drew his gun and ordered Lester to kneel. Following the trail, he found the body in the basement. As he reached for his radio,
613 Willow Creek.
Suddenly, Malvo appeared and shot Vern dead, eliminating the threat. He calmly asked Lester if he had any other problems. Stunned, Lester froze, and before he could react, Malvo used his gun to kill the town sheriff. Lester considered turning the gun on Malvo. Malvo went down to the basement to check things out, leaving his gun upstairs. Lester grabbed his bullets, ready to strike, but Vern's backup had already arrived at the door. Forced to abort, he rushed downstairs to warn Malvo, only to find he was gone. At that moment, Officer Molly saw Vern's body through the window. She kicked the door open and began searching the house. Lester knew he was out of options. She'd soon head for the basement. Then his eyes landed on a poster on the wall, and a plan formed in his mind. When Molly made it to the basement, she found Lester still alive. Meanwhile, Malvo got pulled over for speeding. The officer, Gus, asked for his license. Gus didn't know the sheriff was dead or how dangerous this man really was. Luckily, Malvo wasn't planning to kill him. Calmly, he said, "Let me go home to your daughter. Pretend this never happened." Malvo's icy tone and razor-sharp stare terrified Gus, who froze as Malvo drove away without a care. Shaken, Gus returned to his car, realizing he had just come face to face with death itself. The next day, Lester woke up in the hospital. The police didn't suspect him. Everyone in town knew he was the timid, harmless type. Back home, Lester clutched his wife's clothes and cried. Just then, officers Bill and Molly arrived. Molly had never dropped her suspicion. She knew Vern had come to question Lester after hearing he'd talked about Sam to a stranger at the hospital. Molly asked who that man was, but Lester dodged the question, making up an excuse. He didn't want to expose Malvo. Bill, who had gone to school with Lester, couldn't believe he was capable of murder. To him, it seemed like a robbery gone wrong. Some drifter killed Lester's wife and Vern. Bill pitied Lester and ordered Molly to drop it and go home. Reluctantly, she obeyed. She was just a rookie after all. Meanwhile, Malvo went to the post office to pick up a package. He refused to show ID or give his name, annoying the clerk.
Am I going to need to come back there and find it myself?
Hearing that, the clerk nervously searched and found the parcel. Inside, Malvo found a book, a wallet, and new identification. His new cover identity was that of a pastor. Slightly amused, he apologized for his rudeness, saying a pastor should act like one. Next, Malvo met Stavros, the owner of a supermarket chain. Stavros had received a threatening letter demanding a large sum of money. Malvo's new job was to find and eliminate the blackmailer. Malvo went to see Stavros's wife. The couple was in the middle of a divorce. Stavros suspected her, so Malvo posed as their divorce lawyer to investigate. He found nothing criminal, except that she was having an affair with her trainer, Don. After digging deeper, Malvo confirmed that Don was the blackmailer. In a dim room, Don confessed and begged for mercy after learning Malvo worked for Stavros. Malvo smirked.
You're an idiot. Good news, I'm taking over.
Instead of killing Don, Malvo decided to partner with him, forcing him to continue writing blackmail letters. Back at the station, the team was investigating the sheriff's murder. Gus suddenly remembered the man he'd pulled over that night, running the plates. He discovered the car belonged to Lester, meaning that man was the killer. Gus tried to report it, but the deputy chief was in the restroom, so he had to shout the report from outside. Gus didn't admit he'd been scared. Instead, he reported that the man was just speeding, so he let him go with a warning. Hearing this, the deputy chief burst out of the restroom, pants barely up, and chewed Gus out for letting the sheriff's killer walk free. Furious, he ordered Gus to search every record in the country if needed, and if he failed, he'd take full responsibility. Meanwhile, Lester had regained his composure and returned to work at the insurance company. His boss assigned him a new task. Sam's life insurance had just become active, and Lester was to deliver the paperwork to Sam's wife for her signature. When Lester arrived at Sam's house, he ran into Sam's two dim-witted sons. They recognized him and assumed he was there to hit on their mother, nearly attacking him, until Gina showed up just in time to stop them. Once Gina learned Lester was from the insurance company, she warmly invited him in. She didn't seem the least bit sad about her husband's death. Her mind was on the insurance payout, but Lester explained that the money couldn't be released until after the autopsy, just like his own wife's case. Hearing that, Gina grew even friendlier. Her husband had just died, and Lester had just lost his wife. It almost felt like fate. The atmosphere turned suggestive while her sons watched from outside. Then Lester noticed two men observing him from afar, a bad sign. Later, Lester returned to the office only for those same two men to show up. Their expressions were hostile. They suspected Lester and Gina were having an affair and had killed Sam together. Just then, Molly appeared.
Oh, hi. Sorry about the door. Not sure how that happened.
Smoothly helping Lester get rid of the two men. Clever as always, Molly knew Lester was avoiding her, so she pretended to be a new client buying insurance. She accidentally dropped her folder, and when Lester saw Malvo's photo, he stiffened, realizing he recognized the man. Molly tried to question him, but Lester made an excuse about getting off work and showed her out. Meanwhile, Malvo sneaked into Stavros's house and secretly swapped his medication. Stavros went outside looking for his dog, only to find it dead, with a ransom note beside it. Furious, he called Malvo, saying the blackmailer had not only killed his dog but was demanding $1 million. Little did he know, Malvo was behind it all. Pretending the blackmailer might strike again, Malvo offered to stay at the mansion for protection. Later, after taking the swapped pills, Stavros felt feverish and went to take a cold shower, only to see blood pouring from the faucet, terrifying him. Of course, it was Malvo's doing. Stavros called a plumber to check the pipes, but nothing was found. The plumber suggested he was hallucinating. Meanwhile, Gus was on patrol when dispatch reported a dead dog nearby. He went to check it out, and there he saw Malvo, the same man who had terrified him before. Haunted by his mistake, Gus saw a chance to make things right. Mustering his courage, he arrested Malvo, and to his surprise, Malvo didn't resist, calmly letting himself be handcuffed. Back at the station, Gus called Molly, hoping she'd help with the questioning, but since they were from different precincts, Bill forbade her from joining and decided to handle it himself. Later, Bill arrived at the station where Malvo was being held. During interrogation, Malvo claimed to be a pastor who'd been wrongfully threatened by Gus. He denied all accusations, saying he'd been at church that night and had plenty of witnesses. Acting innocent and mild, Malvo convinced the officers. They checked his alibi, no inconsistencies. People at the church confirmed he hadn't left that night. In the end, Gus's hard-earned arrest was thrown away. His superiors released Malvo. Frustrated, Gus went to the deputy chief to protest, only to be punished with a week of toilet duty for aiming a gun at a pastor without evidence. Meanwhile, Lester was strolling casually down the street when suddenly the hitmen duo Wrench and Numbers dragged him out onto the frozen lake. As usual, Wrench drilled the ice while Numbers interrogated him, demanding that Lester confess to killing Sam. Their professional code was to make every death transparent.
Who is him?
Before Wrench could react, Lester tasered him unconscious and bolted. Numbers, still drilling into the ice, didn't even notice. Lester ran up to the road and spotted a police officer. He asked for a ride back to town but got turned down. Not wanting to explain himself, he thought fast.
Just give me a damn ride. Oh, no, I got arrested. Oh, good, let's go.
And just like that, Lester not only got a free ride but also a free jail meal. Safe behind bars, he smugly thought himself a genius for outsmarting his pursuers. That night, Wrench and Numbers hit a bar, furious that the puny Lester had tricked them. Wrench glared at Numbers with hate, blaming him for the failure, and soon, the two were brawling right there. Meanwhile, Lester was being held for assaulting an officer, but he didn't mind. Jail was safer anyway. Unexpectedly, the cops brought in 2 more inmates. Wrench and Numbers, talk about bad luck. Terrified, Lester kept apologizing to Numbers, but it was pointless. After enduring their torment, he finally cracked and revealed that Malvo was the one who killed Sam. Just then, the cell door opened. Wrench and Numbers had been bailed out. Lester breathed a sigh of relief, finally free from the psychopaths. At the same time, chaos erupted at Stavros's supermarket. Millions of bugs swarmed everywhere. Just then, Stavros received a call from the blackmailer demanding $1 million in cash. Believing it was God's punishment, Stavros decided to pay his way out of damnation, but in truth, the entire plague was Malvo's handiwork. Meanwhile, Bill and Molly found Lester unconscious. His arm wound had become badly infected. Too afraid to seek treatment, he had let it fester. Thankfully, Molly got him to the hospital in time. A few more days and he might have lost the arm. The doctor told Molly the bullet had passed through something before hitting Lester's palm, and bits of fabric were found inside. Molly suddenly realized that bullet had gone through Vern first, proving Lester was there during the shooting. She tried to question him, but Lester pretended to be asleep. He couldn't explain the wound. Elsewhere, Malvo met with Don as their plan to con Stavros neared completion. Malvo instructed Don to call Stavros and demand he bring the money to the drop point. Stavros had already packed the cash, eager to end it all. Don was thrilled, already dreaming of splitting the money.
What's with all the duct tape?
The result was brutal. Malvo tied Don up, taping his hand to an unloaded gun, then fired rounds out the window. Panicked pedestrians scattered, and soon the police surrounded the house, but Malvo was gone. He'd set it up perfectly to have the cops kill Don for him. When the police stormed in, one of them stepped on the trigger wire, the gun fired, and they unleashed a hail of bullets at the house. The first shots missed Don, but his luck didn't last long. At that moment, Malvo found himself in danger. Wrench and Numbers closed in, pinning his car from both sides. In the low visibility, Malvo cleverly escaped and even slashed his own hand to lure them into a trap. Molly and Gus heard gunfire and rushed to the scene. They'd been investigating nearby when they came upon Numbers' body. Before Gus could react, Molly had vanished. A gunshot rang out in the distance. Gus ran toward it, only to realize in horror that he had accidentally shot Molly. His mind went completely blank. Elsewhere, Stavros returned to the spot where he had once found the money. He changed his mind. Instead of paying the ransom, he decided to bury it again in the same place, believing that by doing so, God would forgive him. But just then, tragedy struck. His son's car crashed as fish inexplicably rained from the sky, pelting the windshield until the vehicle lost control. When Stavros arrived, both his son and the driver were dead. He couldn't understand why, after returning the money, God still punished him. Meanwhile, at Lester's brother Chaz's house, the family was having breakfast. The news reported that a powerful tornado had carried fish from miles away, proving the bizarre fish rain wasn't divine, just nature. Later, Chaz's son went to school and, during horseplay with friends, accidentally dropped a gun from his backpack, terrifying everyone. The police soon arrived with a warrant to search the house. When Chaz got home, the cops had already opened his gun locker. Inside were dozens of legal weapons, but also a blood-stained hammer, a pair of women's underwear, and photos of his sister-in-law. Chaz froze, speechless. The sheriff then summoned Lester for questioning. Unsure how to break the news, he was stunned when Lester calmly said he'd long suspected his wife and brother of having an affair. He went on to claim that Chaz had killed both his wife and Sheriff Vern. Lester spoke with fake sorrow, even shedding tears. Bill was moved and believed every word, pitying his old friend. He never suspected that this was all part of Lester's elaborate frame-up. It was Lester who had planted the bloody hammer, the underwear, and even the gun in Chaz's house, every detail meticulously planned. Luckily, Molly survived, though she lost part of her spleen. Gus apologized, admitting he had shot her by mistake. During her recovery, he took care of her devotedly, and she forgave him. The man Molly had shot earlier was Wrench, now under police custody. All he cared about was the fate of his partner. When Molly told him Numbers was dead, Wrench fell silent, shaken and lost. Molly pieced together all the clues. She was getting close to the truth but still lacked hard evidence. Back at the station, she learned that the suspect, Chaz, Lester's brother, had been arrested and blamed for everything. Molly confronted the sheriff, insisting he had the wrong man, but the stubborn chief refused to listen, and the argument quickly escalated into a shouting match. Meanwhile, Lester returned to the insurance office. After everything that had happened, he seemed like a different person. His boss informed him that Sam's policy hadn't been renewed, so his wife couldn't claim the payout. Lester went to see Sam's wife and lied, saying he could fix it. One thing led to another, and he slept with her, pouring all his hatred for Sam onto Gina. Back home, he used his late wife's insurance money to buy a new washing machine and threw all her belongings in the trash. Later, his sister-in-law came to apologize. Her husband was in jail because of Lester's lies. Lester acted kind and forgiving, which made her think he was a good man, unaware that he was the one who killed his wife and framed her husband. Lester had always despised his arrogant brother, so he felt no remorse at all. His newfound confidence even drew the attention of an attractive coworker. Ever since he killed his wife, it was as if luck with women had followed him. The coworker invited him over to her place that very night. But just then, Gina showed up with her two dim-witted sons. Furious after realizing she'd been duped, she'd slept with Lester for nothing and didn't even get the money. Her sons were ready to beat him senseless to avenge their mother.
Sorry, loser. Me too.
Lester wasn't the timid man he used to be. Calmly, he threw Gina and her two sons out. Watching the scene, his coworker Linda couldn't help but fall for him. To her, Lester suddenly looked irresistibly confident. Meanwhile, Malvo arrived at the hospital, killed the cop guarding Wrench, then entered his room. He told Wrench he had not only killed his partner but also wiped out their entire syndicate, 22 people in total. Now Wrench was nothing, a stray dog left to die. But Malvo didn't kill him. Instead, he tossed him a key, setting him free, unconcerned whether Wrench would seek revenge or not. A year later, peace returned to the town. Gus and Molly were married and expecting their first child, yet Molly couldn't let the case go. Even though Chaz had been convicted, she still wasn't satisfied. As for Lester, he became the top insurance consultant in his firm. His career thrived, and romance bloomed. He and Linda were now together. She was not only beautiful but gentle and kind. One night, as they were about to leave the bar, Lester noticed a group of tall, attractive women walk by. He told Linda to head home. He'd stay for a few more drinks. Linda smiled and agreed. Lester sat down near the women, planning his move, until he froze. Malvo was there, the killer who had changed his life forever. Malvo and his companions were talking. One of them mentioned they were meeting a mysterious man tomorrow and that the mission had to stay secret as the man was being hunted. Spotting Malvo, Lester eagerly greeted him. Malvo pretended not to know him, but the fool Lester didn't take the hint and kept following. Annoyed, Malvo led his associates away. The four men entered the elevator, and, of course, Lester followed. He'd grown cocky and intrusive, unable to mind his own business. It irritated Malvo to no end.
Is this what you want?
Yes.
That's on you.
Malvo suddenly pulled his gun and shot his own colleagues, and his wife, dead, right in front of him. It turned out Malvo had been undercover for half a year, trying to locate the mysterious target, and Lester's interference had ruined everything. Yet Malvo didn't seem angry. In fact, he almost enjoyed it, as he began cleaning up the bodies.
See you soon.
Lester rushed back to the hotel, woke Linda, and told her to pack immediately. Knowing he had angered Malvo, they drove through the night back to town. he booked plane tickets for the next morning, planning to leave forever. The next morning, Molly showed up. She was investigating the Las Vegas case. Security footage showed Lester entering the elevator, while the others never came out. Lester denied everything, claiming he didn't see anything and that everyone was laughing when he left. Molly warned him not to leave town. She'd be coming by soon to take his statement. That night, Lester took Linda to his office, saying their passports and some cash were inside, but as they reached the door, fear overtook him. He told Linda to go in alone while he stayed outside, urging her to wear his coat and hat to stay warm. Touched by his thoughtfulness, Linda went in, unaware she was being set up. Lester feared Malvo was inside and wanted Linda to look as much like him as possible, so if Malvo showed up, she'd take the bullet. From the car, Lester watched nervously, and his fear proved true. Malvo was hiding inside. He calmly drew his gun and shot Linda in the head. Lester sat frozen, horrified, but relieved that Malvo hadn't seen him. After that, Lester went to Molly's father's cafe, ordered an extra glass of water for his wife, and deliberately told the owner he was waiting for her. When the owner wasn't looking, Lester slipped out and called the police from a payphone, setting up his alibi. Watching a police car drive by, Lester smiled with satisfaction. Then he returned to the crime scene, putting on an Oscar-worthy performance. Bill was moved, pitying his old friend who had lost 2 wives in 1 year. Meanwhile, FBI agents Budge and Pepper were staking out a crime syndicate when, unbeknownst to them, Malvo casually walked past and stormed right into the group's base. By the time they realized it, Malvo had slaughtered all 22 members inside. The agents were harshly disciplined and spent the next year investigating the massacre until they finally found a lead on the killer. The two went to the local police station, reviewed Molly's case files, and confirmed the killer was Malvo. Impressed with her work, Budge and Pepper berated Bill for his incompetence. They then questioned Lester, since every case somehow tied back to him. They were convinced he knew Malvo, but Lester refused to cooperate. In a free country like America, even the FBI couldn't force him, especially since his wife had just died. Left with no choice, Budge and Pepper escorted Lester home, believing Malvo would come for him, a classic bait-the-snake strategy. They waited outside his house in ambush. Then a suspicious car approached. The agents cautiously went to inspect, only to find the driver's hands tied to the steering wheel.
Sorry.
Is this a dream?
Before they could react, he killed them both on the spot. Malvo then went upstairs and heard Lester calling for help from the bathroom.
I'm upstairs in the bathroom. There's no lock on the door.
But when Lester came out, Malvo was gone. Malvo returned to his cabin, badly injured. A wild boar trap had snapped his leg bone. Chuckling to himself, he muttered, "Good thing it was me and not the pig, that leg would be gone." He crudely bandaged the wound, bitterly realizing that the man who once single-handedly wiped out an entire syndicate had now been outplayed by Lester Nygaard. But then,
I figured it out. And
Malvo never expected to die at Gus's hands. Gus had tracked him down and been lying in wait. For a year, he'd lived haunted by what Malvo had done, until now. Soon after, Molly arrived at the scene, heavily pregnant. She opened Malvo's briefcase and found it filled with cassette tapes, recordings of his phone calls. Apparently, Malvo liked to listen to them when he felt lonely. She played one. It was the call from Lester, begging Malvo for help after killing his wife. At last, the proof was undeniable. Meanwhile, Lester was enjoying his wealthy new life at a snowy mountain resort, riding a snowmobile, funded by his wife's insurance money. But up ahead, police were waiting. Realizing he'd been exposed, Lester made a desperate escape. He crashed and continued on foot. The police stopped chasing. Lester had run onto a frozen lake. The ice was thin, treacherous, but he no longer cared. The ice cracked beneath him. Lester's eyes widened in horror. Too late, he plunged into the freezing water, paying the final price for his sins. And that's the full story of Fargo Season 1. If you'd like us to cover Season 2, comment Season 2 below to let us know. If enough people ask, we'll definitely make it next. Thanks for watching, see you soon.